All right, back for part 7. This should be the final installment. We'll see how things go, see how we do on time. Figured out why the activity level button we put on here wasn't working. Somewhere along the line, our lookup activity level form disappeared. So we're just going to go ahead and recreate that real quick. We're going to select the lookup table for activity level. We'll go to create. Let me make this permanent again. We're going to create a form, and I'll just do form wizard. It's rather quick. I want to bring all fields in. Go next. Yeah, no, not the exercise table. Scratch that. We want the lookup activity level. Bring everything over. Next. Data sheet. Next. The form design is fine, I'm sure. So we'll just click finish. There's our form. Close that. We'll go back into layout view, which is the only view where you can add tabs. Not sure if that one's gonna work or not, so I'm gonna delete it. And we'll just bring that lookup table back in here. And then we'll save it. We'll switch back to form view. So now we have member list and our activity level. There we go. So we can make changes to that from the member list form. We make changes to the exercise from the exercise tab. So that's your navigation form. I like them. If you like them, great. If not, you can always use the buttons that I demonstrated last time. I believe we still have a button on here. There it is, log exercise. So you can do it that way, okay? Those, just a couple different options. I don't think I'm gonna keep this button, so let me switch over to design view real quick. Nope, this is design view for the menu. I don't want design view for the menu. I want form view. And I'll close that, bring this back. I'm going to open my member form list in design view. I don't need the property sheet for right now, so I'll close it. Just going to click on that log exercise button and delete it. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to look at queries. Queries can do a lot of things for you in Access. Queries are actually the workhorse of Access. They help you go out and pull specific information, bring it back into a condensed form or into a condensed report. Let me save this, and I'm going to close it. And normally what I do is I don't run my forms off of tables unless it's a table specific form. You know, like we have the lookup, the exercise. Those are table specific. They're designed so that you can edit those specific tables. But since this member list is a collection of tables, you know, there's some used here, some used there. Normally what I'll do is I'll create a a query, and I'll use that query to populate my forms. So let me just show you how easy it is to create a query. I'm going to create a query from our member list table. I'll go to the Create tab on the ribbon. I'll click on the Query Wizard because these wizards are awesome. I'm back into Office 2013. We'll see how things go. It seems to be working okay for right now. So we're going to do a simple query. There is crosstab queries, duplicate queries, and unmatched queries. some of these are pretty simple, self-explanatory, duplicates and unmatched. The Crosstab Query, we're not going to get into that because this is a basic access. If you want to learn more about that, feel free to look up Dr. Google and find out what Crosstab queries are used for. So a simple query, and I'm just going to bring all the information over from our member list table. And you'll see one of the reasons I like to do this. I'm going to select Next. I want a detailed query that shows every record. A summary query is normally only used if you're pulling in a bunch of numbers and you want to do a summary of those numbers. Then that's where the summary comes in handy. But we'll do a detail query. And this is the step that a lot of beginners skip, and then they wonder why their query looks just like the table. So on this step, what you want to do is you want to modify the query design and then click Finish. Now, if you just want a query to run, as an in-between between your table and your form, then that's fine. Just click Finish and you're done. But what I want to do is, it's good to collect first name and last name. It really is good to collect that information. It helps from getting information confused. For example, if we were just to put a name field, some people might put first name, last name. Some might put last name, comma, space, first name. Some might put first name, middle initial, and last name. And you get all these different variations of a name. And then come time to sort that list by name, it's hard to do. So that's where collecting the information by name is not a bad idea. But what I'm going to show you now is how to take those two fields, the first name and the last name, combine them into a single field. So we're going to come over here to the end of our data and our query, right? These are all the fields from the member list table. And we're going to add a new column. And we're going to call this column name, because it's going to be first and last name, but it's going to be last name, comma, space, first name. You follow that with a colon. That just identifies this as being the field name. And then we're going to take the last name and the first name fields. And when you identify fields here in this query setup, you put those field names inside square brackets. So last name, and then close the square bracket. So that says, give me the last name field. Then we want to combine that with a comma and a space. Your tool to combine things here is the ampersand. It's called the concatenate symbol. So we're going to combine the last name with a comma and a space. A comma and a space are going to be literal delimiters. Anytime you put a literal delimiter or a literal string, then you have to put that literal inside quotes. So I do an open quote, comma, space, close my quote. Okay, that's a literal string that we're using as our delimiter. Then we put another ampersand because we want last name and comma, space, and now first name inside the square bracket. And if I press enter, as long as I didn't make any errors, it's just going to move me on to the next available field. If there's an error, it'll come back and tell you that there's some sort of error. I found that it normally doesn't get specific. It just says, hey, you screwed up. Come and fix it. So now I'm going to take this name field. I'm going to select it. All right, so I put my pointer at the top of that column. It gives me the downward pointing arrow. Click to select it. And then leaving your pointer in the same place because it changes now. Now it's a select arrow. Now I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to position that name field to the left of the last name field. So there's my query. If I run this query using the run button up here just to see what it looks like, there you'll see I have my name field, which is last name, comma, space, first name, and then I have the name fields. So you can do one of two things. Since this is going to be our main form query, and now I can go in and I can, let me close this, I'm going to open my member list form in design view. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my property sheet and I'm going to change where my data comes from. And I'll open this up a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Right now it's getting its information from member list. If I click this drop down and change that to member list query, now it's going to get the information from that query. It's all the same information. It's just an in-between. And it's also going to give us a little bit of additional functionality. So with that selected, I'll close my property sheet, save those changes, and then I'll go back to form view, and you don't see any difference. Everybody's still here. All 13 of our records are there. I can scroll through one and look at them. All the exercises are still there. So no difference there. It just changed where it's getting its information. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to select this because we're going to use the field. And we're going to save it. And again, if we look at it run, there's the full name, last name, first name. We're done with this query for right now. Now we're going to open our member list form in design view. And we're going to go to our add existing fields. And what we want to add is we want to add this name field. So just click and drag it over here into this empty space. And then close your field list. I'm going to bring this over to meet the field label. And then I'm actually going to hide this field. I'm going to put it on top of the goal, but then I'm going to go to the Arrange tab up on top. I'm going to say Send to Back. So it's there, we just can't see it. And there's a reason for this. Because what I want to do is I'm going to put on here, maybe I'll put it up here somewhere, a field that we can use to search for somebody by name or by whatever field you decide you want to use. I'm going to do it by name. So I'm going to go back to my Design tab. And here in the Controls group, I want the combo box, which is this one right here. So click the combo box. Position your cursor wherever you want it on the screen. I'll put mine up here. And you can make this however big you want it. And this is the key. This is the key. This step right here. I want to find a record on my form based on the value I select in my combo box. So you select that radio button and click Next. Now you tell it which field you want it to look at. So if I wanted it to look for their ID number, then I would use this field. I want it to look for their last name or last name, comma, space, first name. And I'm going to add this field. And then I'll click Next. And here you can see is my list of names. I'll click the Next button again. And I'll just leave that name 1. That's a fine name for this field. I'm going to take this and I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call this search name. I'm going to select the field and the label. I'm going to bring up the Properties sheet, select the Format tab, and I'm going to change the for color to black. And then I'm going to take my label, I'm going to drag it up on top of my field. So there's my lookup field. I'm going to save this, switch to Form View. So now I can use either the list that's here, or I can start typing, if I could spell. There you go. As I type, it's going to bring up whoever is in the list that matches that. And then I simply press enter, and then there is my person. So no more scrolling through the field. If I want to go back to bugs, I just click bugs from the drop-down list, and there we go. Now, like I said, you can do that with the member list or the member ID field as well. So that kind of, it's just a shortcut, right? Using these search fields. Real simple to add. Just throw in a combo box, tell it to find specific information on your form, and then tell it what field you're going to use it to look up. Okay, so that's one query, and that's one way to use that query. Now, granted, I could have used that same thing and attached it to my last name field. Problem with that is what happens when you have more than one person with the same last name. For example, we have two people with the last name Pig. So if I told it to find the last name of Pig, then it would bring me up Petunia first. And then if I actually wanted Porky, then I would have to scroll down to find Porky. So by combining the first and last names in this search field, it just makes it a little bit easier. All right, so let's look at another query, I mean, like I said, the queries are the workhorses. So let's say that you have this fitness database, and it's for your place of employment, and now your boss wants to see everybody in a certain department and how much they weigh, or what their age is, or how tall they are, or what their goal is. Now you could go through this and go person by person and copy and paste it into an Excel document or type it onto a Word document. But that's just a whole lot of extra work. You can create a query to do this for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this. I'm going to go to our member list table, select it. Then I'll go to create up on the ribbon. And we're going to create another query using the query wizard. Again, it's going to be a simple query. And we're going to select from our member list. So this is where you don't have to pull all the information. Maybe the boss just wants to know their first name, last name, and their weight. So we'll pull over their member ID, last name, first name, member ID, just to have it there. And then we'll pull in their weight. Okay, so we have 3 bits of information, actually 4: ID, last name, first name, and weight. We're going to take this, we're going to click next. We're going to do a detailed summary, click next again. And again, this is a step that a lot of people will forget. We have to modify the query now. Okay, we have to tell it, oh wait, we missed department. We have to add department. You have to have the field that you're querying by. Okay, in other words, we want specific departments, so we have to add that department into our selected fields. We don't have to show it, but we have to select it. All right, so we're going to modify the query design. Here's our field, our member list, all of our fields. And these are the fields that we selected. So let's say that the boss wants to see everybody in the training department. Here in the criteria field, you simply type equals and then training. And then press enter or tab or whatever to get out of that field. And you'll see it puts training in quotes. You could add the quotes yourself, but it's not absolutely necessary. So now we're always going to test these before we save them and apply them somewhere. So we're going to do a run query. And look, there's everybody in the training department. Now, since they're all from the training department, we don't really need this field to be displayed. So we'll go back to design view. We'll turn the check mark off on the training field or the department field. Still part of the query, still going to be used to determine what data is brought in. It's just not going to be displayed. So let's run it again. And there we have the ID, the last name, first name, and their weight. Too easy, right? Too easy. But what if the boss then comes back and says, okay, now I need to see everybody who works at the library. And then the day after that, he says, let me see everybody who works at KNCT. You're going to have to either do one of two things. You're either going to have to come in and change this query, or you're going to have to create new queries for each department. Or you can create what's known as a parameter query. And a parameter query allows you to enter data into a message box that tells Access what information you want. And those are pretty easy to create as well. So we're going to come back here to our query that pulls departments. And instead of putting a specific department in here, we're going to pose a question, or a statement is better. Not so much a question, but a statement. And what we're going to do is we're going to put that statement inside square brackets. So we'll open our left square bracket, and then we put here, please enter a department name. And then we close our square brackets. Now when we run this query, it pops up a message box and says, please enter a department name. We'll put KNCT, enter, and there it brings up everybody in the KNCT department. Ooh, isn't that cool? Now if we go back into design view and simply run it again, and this time we put library, there's everybody who's in the library department. And if you want to check and make sure, go ahead and bring the department back. We'll do library again. There you can see library. So it's doing exactly what we're asking it to, simply by entering information in that little message box. And now we can save this and then close it. And then what I would do is I would come in here and I would rename this, because you see what it does, member list query 1, you won't know which one is which. So you right click and rename, and we will call this something like department query. And then you double click to run it. There it brings up, and you give it a go. Okay, capitalization doesn't matter when you're using these parameter queries, but spelling does. If you misspell training, you're not going to get anything. But if you do it in all lowercase, it'll still work. So now we can take that query and we can apply it to our member list form in the form of a button. So I'll open a member list form in design view, and hopefully this will work. This is where I ran into trouble last time. But I'm going to add a button. I'll throw it over here. Ugh. All right, I'm going to have to switch. Cancel, delete. I don't know why my 2013 is doing this. Give me a minute and I'll be back. All right, I'm back. Office 365, Office 2019, if you will. But I'm working in 2007 to 2016 file format. So like I said before, you can do that. So I'm going to open member form in design view. I'm going to come up here to my button. These are actually called controls, right? So this is my button control, not my button. Button's a lot more fun to say. And I'm going to come down here. I'm going to create this button. I'm just going to click to use the default. I'm going to say OK, open. And this is going to be miscellaneous because that's where run queries fall into. All right. And I will click next. And which query do you want to run? I want to run the department query. So we click next again. Run query, we'll say run department query. Next, and then finish. Okay, so there's my button. Now I'm gonna close this for just a sec. And what I want to do is I'm going to use this square or rectangle option over here. And I'm going to create like a little toolbox right here. Just going to draw a rectangle. In case I create more buttons to put inside there. I'll bring up my property sheet. I'll change my border width from hairline. I'll give it a little more meat. I'll give it 2 pixels. I'm going to give it some background color. I'll give it a little bit of orange background. And you'll see that it comes up in front of my button. Not a problem. I just select the rectangle again. I go to my Arrange tab, and I'm going to send to back. There we go. And then I can even add, if I go back to design, I can add a label. I can put that label right here. And I can call this toolbox. All right, I'll center that using my property sheet. Format, it's a whole lot easier. And we're going to go text-align center. There's my text-align center. I can apply some special effects. Instead of flat, I'll go with raised, and I'll make my rectangle, I'll make it sunken. There we go. Now I'll go back to form view, and there's my toolbox. So now if I click my Run Department Query button, there's my message box, KNCT, enter. There is my query. Now what you can do with these queries, other than just run a button from them, is you can create forms, or more predominantly, you can use them to create reports. Reports are a lot like forms. The only difference is reports are designed to be printed, either paper form or PDF form. So let's select our department query. Don't open it, just select it. And I'm going to go to Create, and I'm going to create a report. I'm going to go to the report wizard, and I'm going to have it bring in all 3 bits of information, all 4 bits of information, ID, last name, first name. I'll go to Next. And this is if you want any grouping. So like if you want to group it by department, then you're going to have to bring up the department name. Otherwise, you're just going to have to go with the fields that you have here. I would just go maybe by last name, if there is any. Okay, but you don't have to. You don't have to pick any of these. You can just come up here, and we'll remove that, and it'll just show them or throw them out there. However, we'll go next. We want to sort by last name. Since they're all from the same department, we'll sort by last name. And we can, again, you can pick what style you want. I'll go with a tabular, maybe justified, just to see what it looks like. And then depending on how much information you're throwing out there, you have to decide whether you want it portrait or landscape. I think we should fit in portrait mode because you only have 8.5 inches to work with, and you're going to have some margin on top of that. So, if you go with a 1/4 inch margin, you got 8 inches. So next, what title do you want to give this report? Department query. Now what some folks will do, I'm not a big fan of this, but what a lot of people you'll see them do is they'll put abbreviations for what these things are. So if this is a report, I will put RPT underscore, and that way I know when I look at the names, I know it's a report. Or you can put it afterwards. It's totally up to you. I'm going to say let's modify the report design because, again, we want to make sure that everything is going to fit on that 8.5 sheet of piece of paper. Click Finish. So there's what we have: last name, ID, first name, weight. Looks like we're going to have to do a little rearranging because I don't want the ID in between last name and first name. Not a problem. These work just like forms. You click one and you can move them both. I'm going to take the member ID and move it over here. And then I'll take the last name, and I'm just going to use my arrow keys to bring it over there. Okay, so ID, last name, first name, and weight. And you'll see it all fits within 8 inches. We definitely don't need this much space for the weight. So we could even bring that in a bit, no more than 3 characters in there. And this is our documentation, how many pages the report's going to be. We can bring it in to match that. And then this is actually a border that goes around the information. So we want to bring that in as well. And this way we can bring our page width in to 7.5, and that way if we need 1/2 inch margins on each side, we got it. And you'll remember that this equals now, so it's going to display the date and time that this report was created as well. So with that, we're going to come up here and click on the View button. We want to click the top half, which is the Report View. We'll enter our department. I'll do Training, and there you go. There's your printed or your report all ready to be printed. Easy schmeezy. Now we could actually take the button. We'll save this. We could take this button. We'll go back to Design View. Slide over here. I'm going to get rid of that button, and I'm going to create a new one. And this new button, instead of opening just the query, it's going to open the report. So now we can go to Report Operations. And normally I'll go to Preview or Open. Rarely will I do straight print. Preview is usually a good option. That way, if you like what you see, you can go from there to print. Click Next. Since this is our only report to choose from, that's it. And we'll come up here and we'll change this to Preview Department Report. Click Next and Finish. And you can see our button's a little bit bigger, so we need to expand our toolbox a little bit. Kind of center that in there. You can always make it a little bit bigger. There you go. We'll save this. Go back to Form View. I'll close my navigation pane. Now I have my toolbox. There's my Preview Department Report. I'll do Library. enter, and there's my preview. I can zoom in to have a look at it. If I like it, then I can come up here and go to print. I can change my margins, whatever I need to do, all from right here. If you just take a look at it, then you click the close print preview window. Well, there you go. We've done tables, forms, queries, and reports. I've shown you how to modify queries. I've shown you how to add buttons, delete buttons. You can modify buttons, but it's easier just to recreate new buttons. We've done a search field, which is very handy. Okay, search field is awesome. We've done forms and subforms. So if Porky comes in and he does himself some sit-ups. Oops, I'm missing an S here. Sit-ups. He did them today. We can adjust these. And he used 0 weight when he's doing his sit-ups, and he did 15 sit-ups. So there you go. You're all set. Armed and dangerous, ready to create your own Access database. Appreciate you taking time to watch this course. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. My information is in the book. You can download the book. Like I said, this course is a little bit different from the book, but the information is in the book, at least most of it. I didn't add the lookup fields to the book. That's just not one that I do in my regular class, but I thought I would throw it in here because I got all the time in the world. But yeah, if you have any questions, give me an email, give me a call. My information is in there. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.